Monday, Bobby Five with Eric G. Tabor. We're going to be talking through this 6-game slate. I didn't play any NBA. I was in Vegas over the weekend, had a fun time, didn't win there. I went into the trip knowing I wasn't going to gamble big because on Friday, I made a pivot literally at the 7:30 lock that cost me second place in the 777.
Oh,
I played the Jimmy Butler instead of De'Aaron Fox, which cost 40 fantasy points in the win. I still did well, but like it just would have been there. And but feeling back on track, had a good golf week again at 6 in a row. Nothing crazy, but just nice to be profitable. Had some shots and ready to get into this week. How are you doing, man?
We'll have a big couple announcements. So I'm on like a different. We're on different tracks, but we're all going to get to the same place.
Mm-hmm.
So I think in golf, I think I'm in now 13 straight losing classic slates. I think that's accurate. 13 straight losing classic slates. And then I double take down the F1 tournament. Where I don't even know how to pronounce the guys' names.
That's awesome.
Well, that was fun. And the other thing to mention is that listen, NBA is really popular and all this stuff, but Brandon, I don't know what we had like almost 200 people
live,
in the Xfinity live chat.
No, it's amazing, and it just shows you that there's only like 2 other sites doing some of this stuff. So
there was nobody doing the Xfinity.
Okay, well, that's
why they were all there.
Yeah,
and that was fun. And this weekend, because I've lost 18 straight classic slates in a row, I may as well try to win the $1 million in the Players Championship.
Absolutely.
So we're trying that. NBA, I actually had a couple of little cashes over the weekend. I mean, the weekend's always like really soft, So I had a couple of cash. I cashed in the big one last night for a little bit with Butler. And tonight is just a brutal slate because of the way it all spaces out.
Yes.
We'll get into that, but if there's any listen, we'll prepare in advance, but there's no preparing for this one. But we'll see. We'll just get right to it.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's pull up your screen here, and it's like you said, you're gonna have to just weigh that because that's I went through this slate a couple times, and it's really really hard to know what to do other than just overload later and hopefully we'll get the news around shoot around after or something like that.
This is the slate preview. Look at my screen. This is the slate preview. Q out Q out Q. You know what I mean? And the pack this is 10:30. An hour and a half after the one before it. So,
yep.
That's the theme of the slate.
Yeah. So it's going to be tricky. So we're just going to find the other pieces that we like in the early games and see where we go. Because unfortunately, this first game, I just wanted to remind everybody a quick thing about Charlotte. We have to, and I think people have caught on to this, but just in case, Charlotte is a totally different team in that they play slow now. They don't score much. They don't give up much. Somebody's been in the under 100, I think in like 8 out of their last 10, I think it is. So it's not the same gold mine matchup we've had for basically since we started playing DFS. But they are bad defensively. They just play slow. And anyway. So what do you got here in this first one?
Well, since you mentioned it, I do have a couple of them. So the 2 guys that I have are the guys that have just been doing all right recently, and that would be what's his name? Visich.
Yep.
And actually the return of Davis Bertans to the fantasy community. He's been getting in there. He's been doing a little bit, he's been doing his thing. So those would be the 2 guys that I'd be getting to. But quite honestly, I mean, neither of them look like the guys I have to jam in, especially when there's a premium to be put on waiting. But those are the 2 guys I have the most, and they're both getting owned at 20% each. So Bertans and Misic, and on the Detroit side, I'm getting Jalen Duran as the second highest point per dollar play on the slate right now on DraftKings. So I like him, and then I guess Cade Cunningham as well. But listen, and Jaden Ivey, but bringing up a good point. Charlotte's got this reputation for just being like the Harlem Globetrotters, but they're just not anymore. So I think the combination of being an early game or whatever, I'll probably be underweight to what I probably should be on this game. just because of the way the rest of the slate pans out. But the guys I mentioned, I do look like decent plays.
Yeah, and this game actually has, I think I would have more interest even if we didn't have the Boston stuff waiting. But I actually have Brandon Miller as the best play on the Charlotte side, and I think that Miles Bridges is the second best play. Bertans and Misic. Look, Bertans has been over 5 games in a row, and his price is affordable. But you might be potentially giving up a lot of other really good value to play a guy who hasn't more than 5x really his price tag yet. You get 28 fantasy points. I think was his high. But he's been back in the mix, and it's a good matchup, so he could certainly surpass it. It's just I personally like the Miller, Misic, Bridges as my favorite ones, and I'll probably end up with one of Miller or Bridges. Miller is a little more affordable. Bridges has the monster upside. I think they're both really good plays. And on the Detroit side, you've got like guys projecting really well, like Isaiah Stewart. I'm fine with that. Jalen Duren, I'm very volatile lately with the minutes. Partly that's because they get blown out a lot, but also they just haven't really he hasn't really had a big game in a while, and it's just been a little bit different. I will absolutely play Cade. Cade, we've seen that the monster ceilings lately. Like I said, I always do worry that they're not going to play him 38 or 40 in a game minutes wise, but against pretty much anybody. We've seen Cade put up, 50 plus plenty of times. I love the idea of playing Cade here. If I wasn't playing Cade, I would play Asar Thompson. And I think Jaden Ivey's in play as well. So actually a lot to like here, but I think Cade is the one that I'm the most interested in on the Detroit side. And Miller is my early priority on the Charlotte side.
Would you make a rule to not play both Duran and Stewart together?
No, it probably is. I don't think I would get to their hand building, but if I was scripting or something, I wouldn't mind it. I don't think it's impossible. They can both get there. Fontecchio gets in the way of them getting all the minutes, but I think it's okay. I think I'd rather not, but I'd be okay with it if it ended up that way. Okay, so let's move over, and the part of the thing with the Bertans is that you really are just hoping he makes threes, and whenever chalky guys like that come up, I just always remind everybody that if they are cold, you're just not getting there. All right, Phoenix at Cleveland.
Yeah, so all these Cleveland guys remain, with Donovan Mitchell out, they all really haven't gotten the price bumps they need. So all these guys look pretty good. Wait a minute, is he out as well? Yeah, Mobley is out. God. So Dean Wade, Okoro, LeVert, Yang, Garland, all of them, and it's 7:30. So you can't get away from all of it. You know what I mean? Like between the 7 o'clock game and the 7:30 game. I mean, you can't fade both of them. So
right.
Prioritize your best right now. If I had to run my stuff now, I'd get more Dean Wade, but not by much. I think all those guys look pretty similar to me.
Yeah, and you've got Garland, Wade, and Struss all questionable. So again,
Garland too. That's right. I didn't see that.
It's good. It's just a huge thing. If Garland's out, a guy who's going to project for 0 fantasy points would probably become a guy I want a lot of taking some shots. And if Garland and Struss are out, I think I would take some shots with Craig Porter Jr.
Yep.
But as of right now, I think everybody looks okay, and nobody who I feel like I need to play, which feels wrong. It's a good matchup, and I just don't know what to do without the Wade, Struss, Garland stuff. I mean, Struss, they really are questioning because his projection will never be 22 fantasy points, and everybody's just hedging, not knowing whether he's going to play or not. So really, it depends on that. Hopefully we'll have that information a little bit earlier. But if everybody is a go, I actually think Okoro might be the best play, but nobody who I feel like I need to play here.
Yeah, I played Porter yesterday. I thought he would actually be chalkier. He was projecting me like 40% owned, and then he ended up like 20 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
He had 25 points off the bench, which is what you could have expected yesterday with Garland in. But with Garland out, like you said, I mean, he's going to be. I mean, what's he going to be? 80% owned? You know what I mean? Like if Garland's actually out, I mean, a 3,300 starting point guard. That's kind of.
Well, I don't know if he'll start, but if he does, he didn't start when Garland was out before.
Oh, is that true? Okay.
Yeah, and who did they start? They started a funny lineup.
It must have been this game it must have been this game in March 6th, right, where he put 15 minutes.
Well, it was the game. No, he actually he came off the bench for a pretty big game, but he only projected for like 8 fantasy points that night.
Okay.
It was that game I think where he had like 22. Yeah, is that one against Atlanta?
Yeah, that's what I'm looking at here.
Yeah, or maybe Garland did play. I can't remember actually if Garland played that one. I got to double check. But yeah, so I mean, yeah, he's probably going to be a good play. And for what it's worth, I do think Struss is closer to out than he is to in. That's just my take right now, and that would that makes the Dean Wade and potentially Niang a little bit more interesting, and potentially Levert, but it's a little bit expensive for Levert anyway.
So a pretty interesting situation here in Golden State.
Yeah,
because like normally you'd see Curry out, and then you'd get whoever his replacement would be, and all the guards and whatever would be just huge plays. But it's just not looking that way. The only guy who's really popping is Trace Jackson Davis. I mean, what are you going to do? I mean, he's going to start at 4,400. I mean, just gets 20 points by the fact that he's starting, really. I don't know. It's kind of a tough fade for me. But are you supposed to do stuff like play guys we haven't played in like years, like Chris Paul? I mean, I don't know what we're supposed to do here. Right now, I'm not getting to anything except for Trace Jackson Davis on the Golden State side. And on San Antonio, I'm really not getting to too much there either. Vassell question. Oh, he's probable, so he's in. And not that Wembanyama is bad at 10-5, but it's kind of weird. Well, who'd you rather play, Wembanyama at 10-5 or Trace Jackson at 4,000? You know what I mean?
Or Jokic at 11-6, which is also
or Jokic at 11-6. Yeah. I mean, not to say that Wembanyama can't score 70, because he can. It's not like Trace Jackson Jr. is going to do anything about it. You know what I mean? Like, right. So, as a matter of fact, I mean, maybe that's the deal. Maybe Trace Jackson Jr. just busts because he gets into foul trouble.
Mm-hmm.
Possible. 4,400 is really cheap, though.
Yeah, I'm curious what they do. I guess you could say that they're going to start him. I don't know if he's going to start Trace Jackson Davis. I'm curious to see what they do, because he actually has been good defensively, and they like him and all that stuff. But like, they have one of the all-time great defenders in Draymond, who you could put up against Wembanyama, and it probably would be at least enough to annoy Wembanyama. So I don't really know what they're going to do with that situation. And like you said, this is sort of like a funny spot, because like Chris Paul just doesn't look right, and 6,900 feels like a lot to pay for a guy who just playing slower. Like, I know he put up 35 against them last time, and that's fine, but I don't know. I'm like you. I'm sort of having trouble with it as well. Like, finding something like, I think that the super tournament play is Draymond. The problem is, especially if Trace Jackson Davis starts, because that at least means Trace Jackson Davis likely is on Wembanyama. And I think Draymond offensively, without Curry, there's huge potential upside for him to have one of those, he could have one of those weird triple-double games where he barely scores any points. They're going to run a lot of offense through him, and in that short role. So I actually think that Draymond is a really interesting tournament play. And everybody else, I think that Kuminga is fine. Everybody else is fine except for Davis. Who I would right now. I'd be prioritizing Davis if he starts.
You like Wiggins at all too?
It just feels like a little funky. He's like 300. The price is fair.
Yeah.
Off the bench with Clay, they still have a lot of guys, and he just feels so wrong to play a guy who just looks so wrong. He just doesn't look right.
Right.
But yeah, somebody's probably going to get there without Curry. I'm having a hard time figuring out who it's going to be. Podziemski and Draymond would be my two guys who I think have the best chance, followed by Chris Paul probably. But and then I don't have anything on San Antonio. I have no issue if you want to play Wembanyama. I say that every night, and that's how I feel. I don't think there's anything that stands out enough for me to prioritize San Antonio today. But I have no issue with Wembanyama if you wanted to go that route. All right, Dallas and Chicago.
So you have Luka. He's playing a basketball game, so you got to consider him. Caruso, 5,300. Getting to in lineups right now. I don't know if I'm going to get to them by the end of the day. And then the other Chicago normal guys like DeRozan, Vooch, and Kobe, I'm getting to them. You know, kind of with the field, something like that. Right now, I'm really not getting any Luka, though. Just to be whatchamacallit, transparent about it. But certainly good play. But I don't know, the way the pricing is right now, for whatever reason, I'm not getting to him.
Yeah, I'm having a little bit of a hard time. I can get to him, I think, but it's not a great matchup. But it doesn't really matter that much with him. So I'm just a little confused on whether I want to play him. I'm basically in 50-50 because I think that he's always got the highest ceiling. And I actually like Jokic tonight too, but I just hate that game. And I just think they're going to smoke him. Jokic should get there in 3 quarters, but there's other plays in the 8K range, and there might be some really good stuff in the Boston game. We just don't know who's playing yet. So Luka would be the one I would be most interested in on Dallas. And on Chicago, I actually really do like the idea of getting in one of those 3, as I always say. And to me, today, it's probably going to be DeRozan. I like the point guard position today. So I also think that DeRozan has been really, really good lately. He's put up 49 or more 3 games in a row. You got to like the matchup. And they're really, they've been more competitive and they're trying to win games. I like the idea of using DeRozan here. And again, center's got some value, so it's harder to get to Vooch maybe, but I think Vooch is also a decent play. So I like the Bulls side of this. I think this is a kind of weird, this Caruso high ownership. I understand he finally got like 2 ceiling-ish games recently, but it just feels like as chalk when he has to guard Luka all night. I don't know if I want to do that. And I think he's going to be like 25% owned if things locked right now. So if he's lower owned later, I'm happy to incorporate Caruso. I personally don't think that you have to play that chalk as of right now. Toronto and Denver?
Yeah. So RJ Barrett was a very late scratch, I think, in his last game. I don't know if he's going to be playing here. Certainly not a really good spot for Toronto to go into Denver like this. It's not a back-to-back, but just on one day's rest. It's spread is probably pretty gruesome, I would have to imagine.
Yeah, 15.
Quickly, 8,500 seems like just a tough ask. Although, he's put up numbers. The guy who's been showing up in guys that have been like showing up on like optimals recently, and this one of them is this guy, this Jay Freeman Liberty. He's projected for, and I think got exactly the amount of minutes that he was projected for. I think it was 18 minutes, and he had 18 minutes in all 3 games, and all 3 of them he didn't do anything.
Right.
I'm just throwing out some Toronto guys. So if you play Luka, if you play Jokic, I think you have blowout problems maybe. But that's in and of itself, I don't think a reason not to play him. But even still, I haven't really getting that much of him. I have a mid-range kind of idea right now, but again, a lot of it depends on what happens with these Boston guys also. So I'm really just not sure what to do. Denver, Jamal Murray, 8,200, getting some of him. Pretty much it.
Yeah, I couldn't find anything that I guess if Boucher plays, I think he's an interesting tournament play. But he's questionable, as is Barrett and as is Brown. As of right now, I don't think that I would get to anything on Toronto, unless I knew where those guys were at. I think that it's a great matchup for all these guys. If there was one guy to play here, again, sort of I think you play the upside, and he's good in these blowout games too. I kind of like the Michael Porter Jr. Upside play. Like, he's not going to project great. It looks like he's actually getting some ownership, but he's got a monster ceiling. And I could see him being that guy, getting that early 4th quarter run and sort of like stretching out the lead where the other guys may not even play in the 4th quarter. I mean, I really think this game could get really ugly. So I like Michael Porter Jr. the best on over there. I do think Jokic is totally reasonable, and we might get enough value to where Jokic and Luka actually becomes a real thing this week. Anyway. All right.
So Boston has already listed Porzingis is out, and it is the first end of the back-to-back. So there's legitimate questions about how many other guys might get ruled out. I have no idea which of them they're going to be. Tatum, Brown, White, Holiday. I mean, they listed Tatum questionable, same, as before, and played 42 minutes. So if he plays, he's going to play. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
And I just don't know. First of all, with Porzingis out, I'm getting some Luke Cornett already. Just so hard to speculate onto what I'm actually going to want to play. Like Horford, if Horford even plays, right? So Horford will probably play today and not tomorrow, I guess.
Yeah.
And we just have to see. We might end up Peyton Pritchard might end up being a great play if you get Jaylen Brown out or something like that, and Tatum. Maybe Brown and Tatum are out. It's just hard to know. So it's kind of hard for me to speculate. We just have to. And yet you have to make some decisions. I mean, so you have to leave some room open. Like if both those guys are out, I mean, let's just say that Tatum and Brown are out. Like, what does that mean? It means that I guess you want Pritchard. I'm trying to think of what
I just don't see why they would, if they're going to do it, why would they sit Tatum and Brown? It seems like logical to me they would sit one of those guys and one of the guards.
Yeah, maybe.
I think. But
maybe like Drew Holiday or something, or Derek White.
Yeah, and you'd think Holiday would fit that mold a little bit because he's a little bit older. But I'm pretty So I think there's a way to treat it. I think you play three of them, and then you try to make sure you have some pivots to do whatever if you can't. And I think playing Pritchard is already okay, and I think playing Cornett is already okay, even though it's kind of thin. So maybe you play them with Tatum or Brown, and then if whoever else is out, you can shift around. Hopefully, you use them in your final three spots, and you shift around, and you could play White. Let's just say they did, for some reason, they did sit Tatum and Brown. Leave it so you can play White and or Holiday with probably with Sam Hauser by that point, and potentially with Al Horford, by the way, who's totally didn't play. So it's really is hard, but I think you got to try to play at least three of them because I'm pretty sure. I know at least one's going to sit. I'm pretty sure that two are going to sit. That's the way I feel right now, but I could be wrong. And I actually think Tatum and Brown I think are the least likely to sit. But Tatum, because I think he's really trying to do the MVP thing and play every game and all the minutes and everything. We'll see. We'll see if there was one to sit, this would be the one, right?
Yeah, and I happen to like Ayton today on the other side of this. I do. I happen to like Ayton. I like Portland sort of against the spread too. I mean, just teams coming in, they're basically trolling and tooling on you to say, it's back-to-back. We're resting all our guys. We think you're terrible. You know what I mean? Right. I think this could be a game where Portland plays decently. So if you want, I mean, you could play like Ayton and Simons, because those are the guys who are going to have to do something. Ayton or Simons or both or whatever, and play one of these Boston guys. But I don't know. It feels like an Ayton type of thing, where they rest Porzingis or something like that. Let's just say they rest Tatum. You know what I mean? Like Ayton's like, I'm a person too. Like you want to have Luke Cornett deal with that? I don't know. Maybe I'm just making all this up, but it's a center position where you have Trace Jackson Davis and Jokic, and I'm trying to put Ayton in. You know what I mean? So maybe I should just focus on the Boston side. I'm not sure.
No, I actually think the Ayton is really a clever play. Like I actually think that makes plenty of sense to me. Like, and I don't think he's going to get ownership. So it's another thing you could do is you could flop your things around depending on who's in or who's out later. It'd be nice to get 4 from this game, so maybe I will get Ayton in as my 4th just to try to get a little bit different.
Yeah.
But I like that idea. He's the one I would prefer the most. Would be the Ayton play. So I think it's a pretty sharp one, Sheets. I like that quite a bit. For me, the priorities. I mean, it's really hard to make a priority list right now. I do think that I think Pritchard's in play anyway, and I think that Cornett is in play enough anyway to where I can put those guys on that list. And I also I love the DeRozan thing today. I love Brandon Miller. Bridges, those would be where I'd be spending if I'm not going to play Luka and Giannis. I'm sorry, Luka and Jokic. And I think that, I'm going to be well overweight, most of the later stuff just because I want to see what happens. But my hope is that with it being a back-to-back and the game being so much later, that after shoot around, we just get an early news. They don't need to like hide or it's not like they're really testing these guys out. Doing. We should be able to have this information early. So
yeah, exactly. Like they know who's hurt. They know that nobody's hurt. You know what I mean? Like they.
Right.
Anyway, one other thing I should mention, I did run FanDuel builds too, and I'll just give the one or two just outlier differences is on FanDuel, I'm getting just a lot more Darius Garland than on DraftKings. And also I'm getting just a whole bunch of Vooch on FanDuel as well.
Yeah.
So, and part of that is because Trace Jackson Davis is actually is power forward eligible.
Yeah. And I think Cornette might even be as well. He's not that cheap over there. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not even getting to Cornette over on FanDuel. That's so funny.
Yeah, no, I don't think you need to. And by the way, just to say, if everybody did play for whatever reason, this Cornette projection is too high if they all play. Like this has been the same situation for Boston every game this season, and Luke Cornette has almost never shown up as a play.
Oh, really?
And yeah, I mean, every single back-to-back, they sit one of Horford or Porzingis, and. Yeah, he's had some games, but he's had some games when they both played just randomly out of the blue, sort of like the Dean Wade crazy game against Boston the other night.
Right.
But yeah, so that's, again, we'll have more for you live at 6. But hopefully we have some information because the way it is now makes it a very, very strange slate to try to build.
Yep.
And it's going to be one of those you adjust along the way, which is not great for, I think there's going to be a lot of people 150 entering because the $4 today. And it makes it kind of tricky to do.
It's very difficult. I wish I really knew what to do. You know what I mean? Like I wish I knew what to hold back, how to prioritize like an early game play that I think is good, but not like a lock. You know what I mean? I again, you know how I am. I'd love to be able to way to quantify it, but you can't. You got to do it sort of by instinct in a way, and I'm just not sure. So I'm hoping we have some news. But listen, the I would say competitive part of me, but the intellectual part of me actually wants me to be put in the position where I have to try to figure it out. So we'll see what happens. But we'll definitely be there at 6 to see if there's anything that's come out, and I'll try to make heads or tails of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to address something really quickly in chat, because people are gonna maybe Xavier Tillman may be in play later today for Boston.
Oh,
Xavier
okay.
Tillman. But right now you can't play him over. Like he's not. I don't think would play a minute right now. And maybe there's a way he could get to like 5 minutes, but I don't think you should be playing him like over Cornette as of this moment. But do keep an eye out because he could be coming and play later today, depending on if anybody else is out in that one. Although I don't think I personally am going to be making that play. All right. Well, good luck to everybody. We'll see you guys live at 6.